Julian and I had been together for 3 years, and today we were finally getting married. The wedding venue was packed with guests, but the groom was nowhere to be found. It was from his groomsmen that I found out. Just this morning, Julian had an argument with his childhood friend, Chloe, and she decided not to attend our wedding. Julian threw a temper tantrum. If Chloe doesn't come, I'm not getting married. Go tell Grace the wedding is postponed. No sooner had he spoken than the door opened. Julian stood there in a perfectly tailored suit, which should have reflected the joy of walking down the aisle. Instead, his long-fingered hand was gripping a phone with a shattered screen, and his face was grim. The groomsman impatiently stepped in front of me. You heard him, the wedding's postponed. My friend, Olivia, heard him too, and she bristled. What kind of temper tantrum is this? It's unlucky to miss the appointed time. Julian heard her and sneered. Unlucky then, I don't care. If you can't wait, then don't get married. That's when I heard whispers among the guests. Apparently, a crowd had gathered behind me at some point. Their gazes held sympathy and pity, but mostly disdain and mockery. They were eavesdropping intently, their eyes fixed on me, eager to see how I would handle the situation. I scanned the wedding venue. Every decoration was perfectly arranged to Julian's liking. I had even personally handled some of the arrangements myself. I looked down at my hands, covered with several clear band-aids, and suddenly felt a sense of release. There was no resentment, just a profound feeling that none of it mattered anymore. I turned to leave, but Olivia stopped me. She protested on my behalf. Julian, don't think I don't know about you and Chloe. I'm calling that other woman right now. Let's hear what she has to say. Julian stood up abruptly, his eyes red as he glared at me, reminding me word for word, I'll tell you again, she's just my friend. Please don't insult her, okay? I understood. That line popped up in my ears every other day. I pulled Olivia, ready to leave. Olivia was fuming. She was blunt and looked like she was about to explode. But for my sake, she eventually just sighed. Seeing my silence and the whispers and pointing from the crowd, Julian thought I was using public opinion to pressure him. Grace, I've seen it today. What's the difference between you and a narrow-minded, jealous woman? I couldn't be bothered to respond to him. Whatever, marry or don't marry, I don't care. At that moment, the lights dimmed, and a single spotlight pulsed on the stage. With no sign of the bride and groom for a long time, the uninitiated guests reacted with a murmur of confusion. The appointed time had passed. Just as I was about to go on stage and announce the wedding's cancellation, the main doors opened, and a woman in a white gown appeared. It was Chloe, my fiancé's childhood friend. She had finally arrived. As if by telepathic connection, Julian stared at her, mesmerized. They gazed at each other with deep affection, as if separated by a vast distance yet intimately connected. Chloe, her eyes red-rimmed, questioned Julian, if it weren't for her, would I be standing next to you today? Julian paused, subtly glancing at me before his gaze returned to Chloe. He snatched our wedding ring from the bridesmaid's hand and, under the gaze of the astonished crowd, slowly walked towards his childhood friend. The spotlight followed him. In the pin-drop silence, Julian slipped the wedding ring, which was meant for my finger, onto Chloe's. The answer was obvious. The wedding venue suddenly erupted into chaos, and guests turned their amused and mocking glances my way. I, however, ripped off my bridal corsage and snatched the microphone from the MC. He put a ring on it. It would be outrageous not to get married now. Come on, everyone, let's give them a round of applause and wish this couple may they live happily ever after. My blessing was heartfelt. But my words, to the ears of others, sounded like mockery. Julian glared at me intently. It's just a ring. Do you need to be so petty about it? And why did you take off your bridal corsage? Are you not marrying me anymore? He asked so confidently that for a moment, I was confused, unsure if I had truly done something wrong. Seeing my silence, he scoffed again. Chloe saved me when I was young. It's your honor that she even bothered to come to the wedding. How dare you passive-aggressively accuse her? And slander us with your words. Grace, you can't use your family's wealth and influence to slander someone else's pure friendship. He spoke self-righteously, while Chloe stood by, carefully supporting him, her chin subtly raised in triumph, inadvertently flashing the ring on her left-hand's ring finger. Don't worry, I'll return this ring to you right now. My wedding ring, placed on another woman's hand by my own groom. I looked at the many guests below the stage. Some covered their mouths, giggling, while others even whistled, implying that a threesome wouldn't be out of the question for us. In the past, I would have impulsively rushed forward to confront them. Whenever there was tension between Chloe and me, Julian would protect her without asking any questions. He would only blame me for being overly jealous and unreasonable. He would even intentionally disappear in the middle of the night, hiding at someone else's house to avoid me. He told his friends I had a spoiled attitude. It was only when I offered him luxury items as an apology that he would finally come around. He forced me to write a letter of apology, making me promise never to be jealous of Chloe again. Over time, I became love-blinded, only listening to him. But now, looking at Julian, beaming with satisfaction, I suddenly felt that all my past efforts were utterly worthless. I spoke with such poise and grace that even Julian was surprised. No need. You two enjoy yourselves. Just don't forget to transfer the reception bill to my account afterward. I was the long-lost heir of the Beau family. Before the Beau family recognized me, I was very poor. My nanny, wanting her own child to receive a good education, swapped me with her baby. Afterward, she felt guilty and simply abandoned me at an orphanage. I worked hard and got into college. Without money, I applied for student loans. I often attended classes during the day, tutored in the evenings, and handed out flyers on the street during weekends. It was 30 yuan a day, and I couldn't return to school until all the flyers were distributed. I remember that day was exceptionally cold. I couldn't afford gloves, and I stood on the street with one last flyer left to hand out. I hadn't eaten all day, and when I smelled roasted sweet potatoes, my stomach rumbled with hunger. Then a handsome guy with a warm smile appeared, patted my shoulder, and handed me a roasted sweet potato. Here, eat this. I bought an extra milk tea too. He held up 2 roasted sweet potatoes and 2 milk teas, smiling at me. It's so cold, why are you out here working so hard handing out flyers? Are you really in need of money? I was speechless, eating the sweet potato and nodding. Oh, well, I'll take that last flyer, then you can go back to school, right? He grinned, grabbed the last flyer from my hand, folded it, and put it in his backpack. Later, I saw him a few more times at school. He'd be looking around as if waiting for someone, and when he saw me, he'd greet me happily. I ran into him again at the school's English competition. It just so happened that other students were mocking me, saying my accent was bad, calling it Chinglish. But Julian stepped forward to encourage me. He said I didn't have the same advantages as others, but if I had come from a better background and could study abroad, I wouldn't be inferior. He even gave me a radio, encouraging me to listen and read more. One Valentine's Day, I saw him walking despondently, and I gathered my courage to give him a rose. He smiled through his tears and hugged me tightly, thanking me. Campus speakers were playing a cover of Snowflower then, and in a moment of emotion, I kissed his forehead. Eventually, we started dating. Everyone disapproved of us, but I alone knew and firmly believed that I loved him. But I was also insecure because I knew he always had another girl in his heart. So, I wanted to make myself better. I believed that if I became a better person, I would be worthy of him. The year I graduated from college, I was suddenly recognized by the Beau family. But at the same time, a certain name kept appearing on Julian's phone. That person had changed their mind about him. I returned to the Beau family, received everything I was entitled to, and could afford all the luxury items he desired. I bought him the mansion and luxury cars, hoping to compensate him for everything. But he became less and less attentive towards me, often being called out by a phone call right in the middle of dinner. I remembered our connection, but it seemed he had started a new relationship. No, my phrasing wasn't accurate. It wasn't a new relationship, it was an old flame that had rekindled. Olivia found me, her face full of disbelief. Can you really let go? I asked her for a cigarette. The first drag burned my throat. But the moment the flame ignited, it seemed like a tiny star. Since the light that once illuminated my bleak life was gone, there was no need for me to hold on to anything. Grace, what are you doing hiding there? This is our wedding. Julian waved to me, signaling me to come over to him quickly. He deliberately brought up the wedding, but he wouldn't let go of Chloe's hand. Anyone could see who he truly cared about. I glanced around the venue, my voice cold. I just said it, I wished you two new happy couple may they live happily ever after. Was I unclear, or were you not listening? Julian hadn't expected me to be. He's so arrogant toward him. He seemed flustered, but still managed to hold back his anger. Grace, are you still acting spoiled? Do you think being rich makes you superior? I scoffed. If money truly allowed one to do whatever they wanted, why would he still fall for someone else? I pondered for a moment before answering him. If that's what you want to believe, there's nothing I can do. Julian was furious. He glanced nervously at the vast crowd of wealthy and influential guests, a trace of regret crossing his face, as if he regretted his impulsive words. I thought he would storm off like he always did. But this time, he actually spoke again, his tone pleading. Grace, wasn't what just happened part of our rehearsal? You said we'd give the guests a surprise, did you forget? I was so enraged I actually laughed. Chloe, standing beside him, subtly adjusted her wedding dress-style evening gown, her eyes gleaming with triumph as she fiddled with the wedding ring on her hand, then chimed in, exactly, Ms. Bow, didn't we rehearse this? Or did you take the act too seriously and decide you don't want to marry Julian anymore? If I weren't directly involved, I'd genuinely want to give them both an award for best actors. To be able to say such shameless things so brazenly, I was utterly impressed. I glanced at the guests below, some were whispering, seemingly already believing their nonsense. I let out a cold laugh. How could that be? You know Julian is the one I love most. Everything he eats or uses is top-notch, except for... I paused, leaving the guests in suspense. A flicker of panic crossed Julian's eyes, and he instinctively let go of Chloe's hand, leaving her momentarily stunned. I smirked and uttered words that made Julian visibly stagger back, except that the person he's marrying today isn't me, but I'm still happy for him. Just then, Daniel, the etiquette coordinator, wheeled out the wedding cake according to the schedule. He set down the cake knife and server and respectfully addressed Chloe, please, groom and bride, cut the cake together. Since Daniel was a hotel employee, he didn't know the situation, so he mistook Chloe, standing next to Julian, for me. I coldly smirked and pulled Olivia, about to leave, but Julian called out to me. I turned back to see him pushing Chloe aside and rushing towards me, his words urgent, honey, this is our wedding, you can't leave. Come cut the cake with me. He pulled me under the spotlight, gripping my hands tightly as we cut the cake. After cutting a slice, he quickly released my hand, picked up the plate, and turned to feed Chloe. Chloe naturally opened her mouth, then playfully smeared a bit of frosting on Julian's nose, her gaze adoring, casting a subtle glance my way. Julian's face suddenly flushed, and he mumbled something softly. At that moment, Chloe leaned down and asked Julian tenderly, you're about to become someone else's groom, could you give me one last hug? I was utterly disgusted. Even though I no longer loved him, to pull a stunt like this right in front of me, at my own wedding. It was nauseating. I remembered that this morning, Julian postponed the wedding because he had argued with Chloe. It seemed Chloe had planned this, and Julian was more than willing to go along with it. Before he could respond, someone in the audience suddenly screamed. When Julian turned back again, his face was a mix of emotions. Grace, you actually kissed a staff member. That's right. I stood on my tiptoes and kissed the tall, handsome Daniel. He's an old classmate of mine. Is there a problem with me kissing him before getting married? I found a spot in the audience and sat down. Daniel really was an old classmate of mine, even from middle school. At first, I didn't recognize him because he had transformed into such a handsome man, even more attractive than before. Grace, are you deliberately trying to embarrass me? Julian barely concealed his rage. He pointed at us both, gritting his teeth. You're just jealous. You can't stand that I have female friends, you just want me to be your slave. I wanted to ask him, which female friend could constantly stick to him like that? Which female friend could openly demand a hug at a wedding? They might have no shame, but I, Grace, still had decency and self-respect. Isn't your female friend still waiting for a hug? Don't make her wait. What if she gets impatient and leaves? Julian, however, thought I was trying to confuse the issue. Grace, you're endlessly jealous. You can't even go through with the wedding properly, you just have to spite me. Even now, he still couldn't see my true attitude. I picked up a piece of food with my chopsticks and tasted it. Julian, go hug your bride. Don't mind me, I've already started enjoying the banquet. My birth parents didn't attend this wedding. Because of my identity, they felt too guilty and found it inappropriate to come. But that didn't mean I would let anyone manipulate me. Julian said, Grace, you've changed. You weren't like this before. I paused, a crab leg halfway to my mouth. Before? Was he talking about before with me? My eyes darkened. He thought he had convinced me, and his tone held a hint of playful complaint. Bachan, today is our big day. Look at all the guests down there, your friends and family. Aren't they all hoping for our happiness? I put down the crab, wiped my mouth, and stood up. Right, thanks for reminding me. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. I bowed to the guests below the stage. Today's wedding is cancelled. Please enjoy the food and drinks, and my secretary will refund your cash gifts shortly. The cash gifts amounted to tens of millions. Hearing that sum, Julian completely panicked. But he remained defiant. Grace, since you don't respect me, don't you dare regret this. With that, he pulled Chloe and walked away. As they left, guests pointed and whispered about him. Just as the door opened, my voice called out, "Dawn. T, forget to return my custom-tailored suit and the wedding ring. They're worth millions. You can't afford to replace them if you break them." Amidst the guests' derisive laughter, the doors closed. As I scrolled through my phone, I saw that Julian had updated his social media. Married today, with a different bride. The accompanying photo showed him lying on the marital bed, his head buried in a woman's embrace. Without a word, I liked the post. Then I quickly blocked all his contact information and had my secretary handle all subsequent issues. This included hiring a divorce lawyer and selling the marital home. Back at the office, my secretary told me someone was looking for me. From his hesitant expression, I knew it was Julian. In the past, if he came to me voluntarily after an argument, it would have been a huge stroke of luck for me. I would definitely give him my black card to spend as much as he wanted, and do everything to appease him, promising I wouldn't make the same mistake again. But now, I just sighed. Without my permission, my secretary would certainly not let Julian in. I was busy all morning. When my secretary called to ask what I wanted for lunch, he cautiously added, "Julian said he made your favorite special fish dish." The lunch container was opened, revealing a beautifully arranged special fish dish that looked sweet and sour and delicious, yet it didn't seem like his cooking. Julian couldn't cook at all. Through the glass, Julian looked at me, dark circles under his eyes. I knew he wanted to reconcile. I didn't touch my chopsticks. Instead, I asked my secretary to book a private room at a restaurant for me. As I was leaving, Julian rushed over, disregarding everything, grabbing my sleeve, and suddenly said, "I didn't sleep with her." After he said that, the entire hallway fell into a pin-drop silence. I told everyone else to leave first, then turned and told him, "I don't care anymore. Please direct any future matters to my lawyer." Not a noun. Seeing our divorce publicly was already the last shred of dignity I was extending to him, but he persisted relentlessly. "Grace, I know you're truly angry this time, but you were the one who made the first mistake. You were the one who lost your temper with me. I had only taken a couple of steps when I stopped dead." I had given him plenty of respect, but he was truly shameless. I scoffed. "So what?" Julian saw that I answered him, but my tone and attitude were harsh. He bit his lip and lowered his head. "So, I forgive you this time. Let's put everything in the past and be together properly from now on." I closed my eyes, feeling lightheaded. Why should we reconcile just because he said so? My silence only made him raise his voice. "Still angry? How can you be so narrow-minded? You're nothing like Chloe. She was even asking about you yesterday." I was too astonished to speak. His so-called concern meant deliberately showing up late to humiliate me, standing on the wedding stage with my fiancé, wearing the ring meant for me, and on our wedding night, comforting my husband in the marital bed I bought. My heart ached with anger. "Say whatever you want. I have things to do. Don't block my way." I had never treated him with such an attitude before, and this time, Julian was truly angry. "Grace, I came all the way here to find you. Now everyone at the office knows I apologized to you. I've given you plenty of face. What more do you want?" He asked what I wanted. I once wanted to grow old together with him, but now, seeing him confront me accusingly, he wasn't here to apologize, he was here to force me to yield. "I've made it perfectly clear," I said coolly, turning my head. "I want a divorce." Julian was unwilling to give up. Hearing the word divorce seemed to trigger him. He raised his hand to strike me, but the rushing security guard stopped him. "Grace, don't you dare regret this." How ironic. Who was begging whom now? He still didn't understand his place. After the tea, Julian never came looking for me again, and I was glad to be at peace. Robert and Eleanor heard about my decision to divorce and expressed their support, even saying I married too early and that getting involved with the family business and having money in my hands was most important. Robert stepped in, connected me with a major project, and I took it very seriously, often working late into the night at the office. After the project wrapped up, I asked my secretary to book a flight for me to go abroad and relax, and to inquire about the divorce proceedings. My secretary told me that Julian had blocked all his contact information and changed the locks on the marital home. "Ms. Bowe, take a look." My secretary brought over a tablet and showed me Julian's social media account. On it, he was recounting our past and his friendship with Chloe. He crafted his persona of a devoted lover, portraying himself as a victim, abandoned by a wealthy heiress for defending his right to friendship. His narrative garnered considerable sympathy. He seized the opportunity to do live stream selling, making a good amount of money. In his photo album, our wedding photo was pinned to the top, followed by his latest close-up photo with Chloe. He wanted to have it all. Chloe, on her part, was extremely cooperative, even performing the story of a loyal childhood friend silently adoring his idealized first love for 10 years, which brought young girls to tears. I thought their storytelling abilities surpassed many professional screenwriters. I really wanted to give them a thumbs up. In the past, if I discovered they had crossed a line, I would have been furious, wanting to separate them immediately. But now, I felt this was actually a good opportunity. Wasn't this ready-made evidence? I saved their photo and sent it to my lawyer, asking him to arrange for divorce proceedings. The moment I sent the photo, I thought my heart would ache. What woman would willingly expose her wounds to others? But standing by the window, with the breeze blowing past, I felt an incredible sense of ease. It turned out, I no longer cared. The lawyer was highly efficient. Soon, I received a video call from him. Julian snatched the phone, glaring angrily. "Grace, haven't you caused enough trouble? If you want to reconcile, come yourself. Why involve a lawyer? What does he know about feelings?" Another voice on the side tried to soothe him. "Don't be angry. She's a CEO now. She can't exactly humble herself to you." I laughed in disbelief. So, Chloe was there too. Both of them had been living in the marital home I bought. I had nothing to say to them and wanted to hang up. Julian noticed my change in demeanor and lowered his voice. "Grace, can our years of relationship just end like this?" On the screen, Chloe's hand was wrapped around his broad shoulder, as if asserting her claim. "You said I was your salvation. Are you really going to abandon me?" He was playing the emotional card, figuring that since we met during my toughest times, I wouldn't truly give up on him. He was confident, daring to cause such a scene with me because he was convinced I wouldn't stop loving him. "Julian, I'm giving you 3 days to move out of my house. Otherwise, I'll have to call the police." With that, I hung up. Just then, my secretary brought over a package, asking me to sign for it. I opened it to find the dried rose I had once given Julian. The rose I gave him on Valentine's Day 6 years ago, which I had dried. I had hoped our love would last forever, never fading. Now, he sent it back to remind me that my love for him was like that flower. I must have loved him deeply back then. That's why I would eat only buns with dipping sauce for a week, spending 100 yuan to create this preserved rose, just so he would occasionally think of me. A love so humble, it could only bear bitter fruit. I sent a text message to my lawyer. As long as he agrees to the divorce, he can keep all the luxury items, cars, and transferred funds I gave him, excluding the property. Julian was in disbelief that I would spare no expense just to divorce him. At the same time, he realized he could have gotten even more if he had stayed with me. He stood under the rain outside the mansion, his face etched with a despondent expression, just like that Valentine's Day many years ago. He looked like he was heartbroken. "Grace, I truly love you." When I didn't respond, he looked up, his face pale and drawn. "I know you value your pride, so this time, let me try to win you over. Shouldn't you be rushing downstairs, opening the door, and excitedly hugging me, telling me that we'll definitely be all right?" Julian's voice seemed to drift in the rain. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window on the 2nd floor, gazing at the figure who was once so familiar but now utterly strange, my heart a mix of emotions. Once, his every word, every glance, could easily stir my heartstrings. But now, those words sounded like echoes from another life, no longer able to stir a ripple in my heart. My past self would certainly have done so. His idealized first love came to appease me. How fortunate. I would even self-manipulate, thinking, what did he do wrong? He just made a mistake that any man could make. Only Chloe was at fault. Julian was innocent. He merely treated her as a good friend. But now, I clearly felt how miserable my former self had been. It was because he had trampled my sincerity underfoot and did as he pleased. "Grace, I admit I didn't do well in many ways in the past, but I'm willing to change. I'm willing to spend the rest of my life proving my sincerity." There was a hint of plea in his tone, as if he wanted to grasp onto a last sliver of hope. The umbrella lay at my feet. I indifferently lifted my eyelids. "Things won't get better between us." Julian blinked his wide eyes, as if he hadn't understood. "What are you talking about? What do you mean, things won't get better? Do you have another man?" "I don't." He didn't believe me. "I never doubted your love for me, but why is this happening?" I took a deep breath and gazed at him with a steady gaze. His eyes, which once made my heart race, now reflected no trace of me. "Julian, when I say things won't get better, I mean that the trust and respect between us have completely shattered. It's not because of anyone else, but because of your attitude towards me. It left me utterly disheartened in a way I've never felt before. You might think these are just minor things in life, but to me, Every time I was ignored or disregarded, it was a trampling upon my genuine feelings. Julian's expression shifted slightly. He seemed to be realizing the seriousness of the situation, and his eyes began to redden. I just sometimes wasn't in a good mood, that's why I acted that way toward you. I truly didn't mean to hurt you. I had the housekeeper give him the umbrella. He took the umbrella, momentarily stunned. He looked up at me with tear-filled eyes, and finally, seeing everything clearly, he broke down crying. Grace, I truly didn't mean to. It no longer mattered. I turned and left, not pausing for his muffled cries in the rain. The moment I closed the window, my world became much quieter. My phone began to be bombarded with texts, dense messages flooding my phone screen. Every message was an apology, eventually turning into reminiscences of our beautiful past together. I didn't reply to a single message. After a while, Robert knocked on my door, saying Julian had fainted. Robert sighed, trying to reason with me. How about we just let it go? After all, you've been together for so many years. I shook my head, first calling Chloe, then dialing 911 to have an ambulance take him away. The moment the ambulance door closed, I watched him coldly, my heart completely unmoved. Later, I heard Chloe didn't go, and Julian woke up alone in the hospital. My friend, Olivia, was a doctor at the hospital. She told me Julian refused to eat, starving himself until he was skin and bones, all just to see me. What was the point? I didn't go to see him. But Julian still secretly took Olivia's phone and video called me. I truly understand now. Only you are genuinely good to me. Can you give me one more chance? I stared at my phone screen. Julian's face was haggard, his eyes filled with begging and regret, a stark contrast to the confident, even self-centered man he used to be. For a moment, my heart unexpectedly rippled with emotion, but it was immediately suppressed by reason. I cut him off, my voice devoid of blame, holding only deep resignation. Julian, I've given you countless chances, but I'm tired. Being with you has exhausted me. A love triangle with 3 people was too crowded. He took advantage of my favoritism and became brazen, while I, ironically, felt like a clown. After hanging up, I grabbed my clothes and went to the airport. Alone, I went to Iceland to see the northern lights, dived in the Maldives, hiked in New Zealand, and finally returned to my home country, traveling to a remote spiritual sanctuary. There, I participated in a visit to a sky burial organized by a Buddhist monastery. After returning to my hotel, I felt terribly ill, and suddenly, I understood. In life, nothing is significant except life and death. At that moment, my lawyer informed me, Julian has agreed to sign the papers. Soon, I returned to the city where Robert and Eleanor lived. On the day we picked up their divorce decree, I wanted to say a few comforting words to him, but suddenly realized there was truly nothing left for me to say from my position. His Chloe didn't come to pick him up, and I drove off in my Porsche Panamera. Afterward, I went abroad for further studies. 3 years later, I returned to my home country. Olivia threw a welcome party for me, and casually brought up Julian. I don't know what happened to your ex-husband after your divorce, but he suddenly changed dramatically. I nodded silently. I see you genuinely don't care anymore. Oh, and Chloe, she was actually being kept by an older man on the sly. He found out about her and your ex-husband, and he beat your ex-husband right there, sending him to the hospital. I simply said, oh, swirling my wine glass and taking a slow sip. Olivia sighed, he's been left disabled now, and he can never have children. Olivia was a doctor, and doctors have a compassionate heart. She knew Julian's actions, yet she remained compassionate. I was fortunate to have friends like her who followed their conscience. Anyway, let's let bygones be bygones. Tell me about yourself. I heard you started a new company abroad, and it's thriving. You're even trying to acquire your father's company. He's frantic. I smiled, not an acquisition, it's a partnership for mutual benefit. So many years had passed in a blink, and my life was steadily moving forward. Now I was successful in my career and focused on building my own life. I was grateful for the decision I made back then. Time was the best healer. It taught me to let go and showed me what true love should be like. Perhaps one day, when we both become better versions of ourselves and can face each other with a more mature and rational attitude, the past hurts and regrets will truly be released. But until then, I chose to keep moving forward. On life's journey, searching for my own happiness and peace, people always need to move forward and say goodbye to someone who drains your emotional energy.